sure that you've looked at the manifesto of the ANC. It's got a section there which talks about, which does a very good thing, and says that the ANC has made many mistakes, that it has also veered off course. That's the language that's used. It's veered off course, and talks about the consequences of that, which include corruption, loss of integrity, lawlessness, matters like that. These are very important observations. It was very important that the ANC should say that, to say to the people of South Africa, we recognize that there are these things, and the language is very strong. When you say that you veered off course, to veer off course, instead of going that way, you go that way. That's a very, I'm saying, serious observation to make. Now, you will recall that for many years, we have had a different approach to this issue, which was people saying, we've got a good story to tell. As they were busy veering off course, they were saying, we've got a good story to tell. Now, so you say, why now? Why do I do this? It's because there was a period when I could not personally, in all honesty, come and say to a person, David, please vote for the ANC, knowing very well the wrong things that were happening, that it would not be honest of me to go and talk to people like that. I'm saying that the current election manifesto of the ANC has those observations about the ANC. What that does, it poses a challenge to the ANC. The fact that we admit that we veered, of course, and resulting in corruption, this and that and the other, it means we're making a commitment to the public that we're going to have to deal with those matters. And therefore, there is a degree of accountability of the ANC to the public, which the ANC cannot run away from. So it's not just a matter of these elections now on the 8th of May. There are consequences to the commitments that the ANC makes in that election manifesto to the population of South Africa. The admission that we veered, of course, corruption, lawlessness, and so on, means we therefore make a commitment to deal with those questions. The issue of the list obviously comes up. I think the veterans of the ANC were very correct to raise the matter. To say, look, from what we can see in terms of what's happening, that's in the public domain, we think the following people should not be on the ANC list. I think the ANC veterans were correct to raise that. Because the ANC has got its own structures, and what has happened, again, as you know, is that that whole list was given to the Integrity Committee of the ANC. And I'm told the Integrity Committee, they have not told me that, but I'm told the Integrity Committee has looked at that list and has its own views. Now, those views of the Integrity Committee will not remain secret. Now, if the Integrity Committee says that we don't think Thabo Mbeki is fit and proper to be our representative in Parliament for the following reasons, that's a statement of the, in a formal sense, that's a statement of the Integrity Committee to the National Executive Committee of the ANC. But it is actually a statement to the South African people. It's to the population. So I think we need to wait to see what happens with regard to that. So I'm saying that even from the point of view of the leadership of the ANC, the matter of that list is not closed. Because certainly the National Executive Committee, having asked the Integrity Committee to look at the matter, the National Executive Committee has got to respond to what the Integrity Committee would have said. And I think this is consistent with what I've just said, where the ANC has said, yes, we made mistakes, yes, we've heard, of course, yes, there was corruption, yes, there was all of these things. The ANC necessarily has got to look at everything within that context. You know that you've been watching what's been happening with the judicial commissions. The New Gent Commission, for instance, which looked at the matter of SARS, it tells a frightening story, what I think is a frightening story. Because what's frightening about the story told by the New Gent Commission is that there were people who set out to destroy the revenue service, deliberately, systematically, to destroy SARS. And that's 95% of the revenues the government needs. If you destroy the SARS, you destroy the government. The story I'm told by the New Gen Commission is about a systematic process to destroy SARS. You have the stories that are coming out of the Zondo Commission on State Capture. You have stories coming out of this other commission, related by Judge Lex Mpati on the PIC. All of these commissions are telling a story about what the ANC addresses in its manifesto. The corruption, the lawlessness, the loss of integrity, and all of that. It says even in state institutions. That's the ANC manifesto. So I'm saying that all of these things, therefore, the ANC has to address, even after the elections. To say, having said to the South African population, we went wrong, with very negative results. And that even there are members of the ANC who will be very much deeply involved in this negativity. You can't pardon them, excuse them simply because they carry ANC membership cards. So I'm saying, therefore, the leadership of the ANC has an obligation to live up to the commitment it's making to the people on this matter of ensuring that we correct what has gone wrong during these years when the ANC has been the government of South Africa. So Samkela, that is why it becomes possible now for me to say Samkela vote ANC. Because because I'm saying, I'm quite sure that if you look at the manifesto, it's very long, 66 pages. When I saw it, I was saying, but what are they talking about? But when you look at it, you can see what is happening. The organization is trying to make a detailed commitment about what to do with the economy, about social cohesion, about health, about education, which is what accounts for the length. It's a serious commitment made in detail, not in broad terms, but in very specific terms. In the context of saying that we make this commitment to the people, in this context, that we don't want to continue veering off course. Continue saying we've got a good story to tell when things are going wrong. It's in that context that it becomes possible to come back to be active publicly like this, as was sitting as you were asking. Well, I was asked to sign the board there. I couldn't very well say no.
You did have an opportunity to say no. You did.
Did I say no?
No, you had an opportunity to say no.
And what would have happened to me?
We would have continued as normal.
At Kgalema, I think Kgalema is also correct to say that the ANC needs to look very carefully at itself. Let me tell you something which Balula here can explain. Historically, what happens at the ANC conferences is that the president presents a political report, which will talk about the politics over the 5 years since the last national conference. And then that's really the first item on the agenda. It's then discussed. It's a very important document because it's a reflection on the politics of the last 5 years and a projection into the future in terms of the politics of the ANC. There's something strange that happened in Polokwane. I'm saying Balula can explain which is that there was a very strong campaign in the conference not to discuss that report. And it was never discussed. It was the first time ever. It wasn't discussed because there were people in the ANC who did not want the ANC to discuss its politics and to be honest about itself. Now, I'm saying when Kgalema says the ANC needs to look at itself and speak to itself concretely, he's right. Because these are some of the things that the ANC needs to reflect about. Even to answer this question, when it says we went off course, to ask the question why. Not just to report it as a fact, of course, the ANC went off course. But why? There must be a reason for that. In order to ensure that it doesn't recur the going off course. So I'm saying Kgalema is quite correct to say that the ANC needs to look at itself very closely in order to answer many questions about itself. As to what should happen to the Reserve Bank, I wish there could be a more detailed discussion about this matter. The Reserve Bank has got something like 2,000 shareholders. And by law, the shareholders are restricted. You can't buy shares of the Reserve Bank as you wish. It's restricted. And that's why we find these thousands of owners. Even in terms of dividends, that's restricted. If you are a businessman and say, I'm going to invest in the Reserve Bank, I'm going to be a millionaire, you'll never be. Because the dividend is restricted. So, and effectively the Reserve Bank is run by that board majority of whose members are appointed by the government, including the governor. So, when people say they want to nationalize the Reserve Bank, they would want to take me through that discussion. To gain what? From that action. It may be necessary, but I really, to this day, don't know what anybody would gain by that nationalization of the Reserve Bank, except to say we have nationalized. So, okay, you've nationalized. And then I don't know. Nothing would change in terms of the behavior of the Reserve Bank, nothing. In the meantime, you raise all sorts of maybe scarecrows, and people start saying, oh, it's going to lose its independence, this and that and the other. I personally do not see what would be gained by it. It's not going to change policy. It's not going to, even I hear even people saying the Reserve Bank must move away from this business of inflation targeting. Inflation targeting is not a decision of the Reserve Bank. It's a decision of the South African government. It's the government which said there must be inflation targeting, and these are the targets, between 3 and 6%. That's government. And the Reserve Bank implements. So I'm saying that this matter, somebody would have to explain to me when people are saying that there must be nationalization of the Reserve Bank. What will that do? We're talking about nationalization in the context of National Democratic Revolution, okay. A nationalized Reserve Bank, how different will it be from the current Reserve Bank? And one last question about that is, I don't know whether people have said nationalization without compensation. I don't know whether that's supposed to happen. No, because if you decide to nationalize the Reserve Bank and have to buy out these 2,000 shareholders, I don't know where you're going to get the money from. To divert money for what you need to build schools and clinics and so on, to buy out these shareholders. For what reason? I think I've answered all the questions, and I hope all of you will vote ANC. That's it.